First of all, before we get into the episode, what do you think of my shirt? We're pretty colorful today.
This is a pretty loud shirt for you. I feel like you're usually more in nudes and maybe blacks, like more neutral colors, but this is fun for you today. I like it.
This pops. Yeah, I was going to wear it to our Miami trip, and I thought this will be really fun, but for some reason it just wasn't fitting well.
What do you mean?
But then after, taking an extra few days of, there was a friend of ours who we were at a wedding, and he was explaining that his body was like a sponge, where he, in like 4 days of eating garbage food and drinking, can like bloat up so much. Mm-hmm. But then as soon as he takes 3 days off and drinks water and like eats healthy again, he like loses all that weight. And I feel like that's what I was, because leading up to Miami, I was like, well, I'm already going to be eating and drinking in Miami, so let me just like start a few days early. But for some reason, I get like this orb. And then as soon as I like care again and work out and I let my body like flush or something, like I'm not kidding you, I literally couldn't wear this shirt, and now it fits like baggy in just 3 or 4 days. So I don't know what that is. Maybe if someone's like a dietitian or nutritionist or something in that kind of space.
The bloat. But I remember that friend at the wedding mentioned that in like 4 days he gained 20 pounds.
I think it's water retention. And I used to always think it was from drinking beer, but what I'm realizing, because when I cut out all these carbs, it was, for me, it's these not carbs like potatoes or like Ezekiel bread or rice, but the carbs, like the bad carbs, the processed food, I think is what actually bloats me, not a couple beers. Which makes me happy, because I love having wine, I love having beer at like lunch, and I used to stay away from that thinking that's what bloated me, but it's not. Like I can actually enjoy a cold beer at the end of the night, and it has nothing to do with the bloat, as long as I'm not pairing it with like
pizza, pasta, bad carbs.
Yeah, like all that kind of stuff. So all of that story just to let you know that I'm very pleased and proud of the loose baggy shirt that I bought that actually does fit me well. And are you feeling a little sore about... Well, let's talk about the workouts in a second. Let's just do our opening.
Let's do our opening, baby.
I'm going to do it really fast.
Really fast, but not too fast for the people.
Where then it's uncomfortable for people.
Right.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the Freddie and Alyssa Show. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, all that fun YouTube stuff. If you're watching on Facebook and you want to follow the page, that would be awesome. If you're listening on a platform like iTunes, hello out there. If you think we deserve a 5-star review, we would absolutely love that. We've been putting out content now. This November, I believe, now that I've done the math, the Freddie and Alyssa brand as us as like a brand in November will be our 4-year anniversary.
Wow.
So we've been putting out content in many different forms, and we couldn't be doing what we love or got here without all of you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your support, and we're just having an absolute blast doing this. Let's start off with the news of the Sonny recast.
Yes.
Because it was interesting because we did the best we could in our video 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Of being able to explain that I would not be going back if they called, where Days had already called, but it wasn't my place to be able to share the news that there was going to be a recast or that Will and Sonny were coming back. So we were trying to figure out a way, like what's the best way to talk about this.
Right.
And I think we did a really good job because we were able to explain the reasoning behind all of it without giving the actual information. And the reason that we even said it 2 weeks ago is I heard it was coming out in September. And I said, if they don't announce this till September, and every time we go live or every podcast or Q&A, and someone says, hey, are you going back to Days? I felt I could not say, well, the door's always open, but then I didn't want to ignore it.
Right.
So we had a discussion. I said, well, we're not going to give any story away or give away the news if we just say, here's the decision we made. If Days calls, I would not return. Well, Days did call. So I want to share kind of the process of what happened now that I can share all of it. When would you say that was exactly?
So that was right before we went to Kansas City for my grandma's birthday, and that's June 16th. So I think it was the weekend right before.
Okay, because I was actually driving. I remember I dropped Alyssa off for one of her beauty appointments. And we were in Maitland, Florida, and I remember getting an email from production, and it was like, hey, what's your updated phone number? And that kind of gave me a heads up because I go, okay, they're looking to call me. And what I said in the past video too, like I was definitely considering that moment because I knew that no one's ever done with the show, that you're going to get called back at one point. And like I said before, I was very open and honest with everybody that I highly considered it, that if they called, I was like, you know what, we can do back and forth, and we thought about it. But around like April or May is when I really made my decision that I didn't want to, go back. And I said, well, maybe they might not even call, so what's the point of even thinking about it? Like, let's just move on. And then what do you know, beginning of June, they did call, and they let me know about the Peacock spin-off, or however you'd want to call that.
So basically Peacock is their streaming app, and they're doing episodes, I guess, that were what's the spin-off called? Back to Salem? Beyond Salem.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Whoever came up with that is Beyond Salem. Is really cool.
It's very smart. But I'm curious, are those episodes going to be, do you know, an hour long?
I think I can't remember who I was talking to this about or who told me this, but I believe this to be true of what their mindset is. Now, I don't know if it was Sony, NBC, Corday, all three. I don't know the nuts and bolts of this. But as you can tell with Apple, Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, HBO Max, Paramount, Peacock, the list goes on. Amazon, every single platform is basically just turning their station into an app and then merging. So with Peacock, I think that is, or I know is NBC's online streaming. So they're having all their original content on there. And with Days of Our Lives having such a huge brand, and with them being renewed for 2 years, but these apps getting really popular, I was thinking that they're probably testing out to see how many people will actually go to Peacock.
Yep.
Did someone tell me that?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I do so much talking on podcasts and to people. I
never
never know what was said or what was then. But so maybe this was my idea or my thoughts on it, or maybe someone told me. But anyway, that they're going to test out how many people are going to watch this 5-episode series. So maybe it was Corday, maybe it was Sony.
5 episodes.
Yeah. Or maybe it was NBC who goes, you know what, let's invest some money. Let's get a bunch of past characters, current characters, and let's do this big thing, and let's see how many people we can pull and how many viewers we can get on Days of Our Lives. Because if that goes well, they might think in their heads, well, in 2 years when this contract's up on the NBC cable, maybe we just move Days of Our Lives to Peacock in general, because I think they're even putting episodes on Peacock.
Right.
If you don't watch it at 1, you can watch it at Peacock at 7 o'clock at night or something. So they're releasing
It's not on demand?
I don't even know what that is anymore.
Because I would assume on an app, now I don't know, but I watch a lot of stuff through streaming services like Discovery Plus, Disney Plus, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But anytime I go there, it has the show and you just click on it and you can watch.
That's what it is.
So then it probably wouldn't be certain times that it's released. I think they could just watch it whenever they want.
But I think they wait. They did that on NBC.com. So like even with the show Dave that's on FX, if you don't, you can watch it on FX on Wednesday. But if you want to watch it on Hulu, you have to wait till Thursday. And then it's on demand. So with Days of Our Lives, they don't want people to go, oh, I can just watch it at 1 o'clock on Peacock, because then you miss out on all the advertising on the cable network. So they make you wait till 7 so that people will watch it on NBC. And then if they don't watch it at 1, they come home from work, you can watch it on Peacock.
But they're playing it on NBC first?
Yeah, like today's episode will air at 1 o'clock on NBC.
Oh, you're talking about national TV, though. I'm talking about Beyond Salem.
So that's where our big confusion was. You were looking at me like I was like, what is the... So Beyond Salem is solely Peacock.
Yes.
That will not air on NBC. But the Days of Our Lives has already moved to Peacock as a whole. So every episode airs on NBC, and then later that night it's released on Peacock. So they're already putting their inventory on Peacock.
Right.
And now they're doing Beyond Salem on Peacock, which I believe is not just a web series or a whatever you want to call it, limited series. I think they're doing that as a test to see how many people will watch, so that in 2 years, if the numbers aren't good, they don't have to cancel days. They can move days to Peacock, and maybe there'll be a different funding because of how many people are subscribing to Peacock.
Now, my question for you with Beyond Salem, do you believe this will be something that will be available 24/7 like the other shows I was just chatting about?
Yeah.
So you could just go whenever you want, obviously as long as it's out, and watch it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's very interesting. And also, too, they're bringing back a lot of people for Beyond Salem, like Lisa Renna?
Yep.
Wow.
Because that's how I'm looking at it. Like they're like, oh, Lisa Renna will talk about it on Instagram, Twitter, and her fans will go to Peacock. And so I think there was a budget already discussed or extra budget or however it was. But when I saw all the people involved, it's like, oh, let's try to get as many views on Peacock to see what kind of pull we have.
Right.
And so I'm wishing it well. I hope it does amazing because I've always just wanted the show to go on forever. And so here's what happened. Back to the story with so I got a call and I was said, hey, I was told there was going to be a 5-episode thing on Peacock, and we were in the car, and it was funny because when I got off the phone, I was like, I'm not going to do it. And you were even saying too, you're like, you should have just said you'll think about it. And I was like, well, I did think about it for a year. And when they called, it was, I was just like, I don't want to, like, even with the producer, I was like, I don't want to even give them or waste their time. I'm like, I'm going to think about it because I've already thought about it. But it was really hard to say no. So it wasn't like as easy as just like, oh yeah, hey, no. Like I was like trying, like you just feel bad.
It's like a breakup kind of.
It is. It felt like, because like the producer calling wanted me to say yes. So when someone's like calling you and they're like pitching you on like how awesome this is going to be and how much they want you there, and then you're like instantly like, oh yeah, I just like, I'm really sorry, like I just don't want to or whatever. And you could just hear the and so it just feels really funny. And then maybe a weekend goes by and I get another call, and it was from casting, and she was like, hey, I'm not here to convince you or anything like that. I just wanted to let you know because you're my Sonny. And she found me that NBC wants Wilson, and we are going to move forward, and we're going to recast the character. I just wanted to let you know.
That's so nice.
So I really appreciated it, but I also think like subtly it was like the best way to basically like say, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was just a complete courtesy call, but I always think of the business end of it. And I was like, it might be like, you know what, why don't we just call, don't ask him again, but just let him know we're going to recast, because then maybe he'll like say it. Or maybe maybe that's just my ego, maybe not. Maybe it was a courtesy call. But either way, I appreciated the call. And I was like, I think that's a great idea, because it really took the pressure off my shoulders. Because if I was responsible for Wilson disappearing forever, that just makes it worse. So the fact that like everybody on the show was awesome about it, that I really took the time and I made a decision that I was happy with, the fact that they were appreciative, the fact that they're recasting it, that the Wilson story is going to continue, is like,
I know.
Thank God, it's great. The last portion of it is going to be the fans. So I've witnessed many recasts. But one of my favorites was with Guy Wilson, because I got to experience that firsthand of what's going to happen
working
with Zach.
With a new actor too.
Well, that too. But Zach Tinker's taken over the role. I've never met Zach before. He seems like an awesome guy, and I'm wishing him the best. And I even said too, I bet you they're going to take on someone who has soap experience.
You did say
and
that.
I think he was on Young and the Restless for a while, or maybe a long time. But to set him up with it, I think he's going to get a lot of love because people love the storyline. And then there's, of course, going to be people who will love Zach more than me.
Right.
And then there's going to be people who dislike Zach and like me more.
Right.
And then there's going to be the in-between who kind of gets used to it. But I was laughing because now Chandler's going through what I went through, in the sense of, because I've done this where when Chandler was recast the first time, he just like left work, and then all of a sudden Guy shows up, and I'm about to propose to him.
Did you know? You did know that Guy was coming in, that a new actor was coming in. Do you remember that far ago?
I tested. It was just odd, but like after a day of work, they were like, you're testing with this guy, and I was like, okay, maybe that's like another relationship or something. But it was Guy Wilson, who's also blonde and blue eyes, and we like did this test, and then literally the following Monday he shows up through the door, and I ended up proposing. But the reason they did that is that they didn't want me to propose to Chandler and then get married, because it was such an important moment. They're like, we want you to propose to Guy, get married to Guy, so that there's not that thing. But I enjoyed working with Guy. Him and I got along very well. But it took a little time to get used to, because Guy was new to the show and Chandler had been there for years. But I know Chandler's a pro, and all of these people are pros, and so I'm sure it's going to go just seamlessly, because it's going to be amazing. But the reason I keep laughing is that guy, we had this on-running joke that every single interview he did for the first year was, Guy, what's it like stepping into the shoes of a 3-time Emmy-winning actor, Chandler Massey? And so he
What would he say?
Well, I mean, he was great at answering it, but we had that inside joke. So anytime he would be asked that, he would be like, because it's hard to say that. Like, what do you say? Well, you know, he paved the way. I'm grateful to be stepping into these shoes. I'm going to do my very best. And then he'd move to the next. So, Wilson, Guy, what's it like stepping into the shoes and taking over such a pivotal role that means so much to so people and a 3-time Emmy-winning actor? Well, you know...
he is such a good sport.
He was a good sport about it. So my whole point is that there's going to be a huge portion of people that I think are truly going to enjoy it. There's going to be like the fringes of people who obviously like Zach more, which is completely awesome. And there's going to be people who aren't. But for the most part, I'm just sharing these stories because, you know, you do the best you can in the situation. Yeah, so I know that Chandler is going to come in and he's going to get used to it right away. And it's just a little different, but you're acting. You know what I mean? It's like the character's the same. Yeah, I'm looking at a different actor, but the whole relationship and what you actually pull from to be an actor isn't through Chandler or Guy. It's the character. Like, I can't really describe it. There's just slight nuances that shine through of the chemistry of the people. Of course. So like me and Chandler and me and Guy's relationship was different. So like, but there was still, we both liked each other. Yeah. So that's all that needed to come through. It wasn't like I disliked someone and you couldn't see that chemistry because I actually don't like the person. Right. It all really worked. But then also Zach too, it's like, it's the 5 episodes, so maybe it'll go into something in the future. I was just going
to say, do you think that'll be on days on TV?
Maybe. Yeah. I hope it is. But yeah, I think Zach will eventually get the same questions. Maybe not. But I know me and Guy just had such a blast. I enjoyed just listening to that and just watching him squirm a little bit was always a joy to me. So yeah, so overall that's kind of what went down, and so I obviously knew that once the recast was happening that it was really, you know, shut for me. Yeah.
Well, congrats to Zach.
Yeah, congrats.
Best of luck. And you guys do look pretty similar.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Think it was a great casting call. And so yeah, I'm going to check it out. This will be the first time I'll get to actually see Wilson as all of you because, you know, when it's me, you can't help but judge your own stuff. But now I can watch, you know, them work together. So I just wanted to be able just to come on and share the rest of the story because I know we went into the reasonings and all that on the past episode. So if you didn't catch that, you can look for it. It was like a few weeks ago where I just, you know, go into that more detail. But I just wanted to focus on the last little portion here. But yeah, people were great. I heard from the PR department, and she was, you know, just like everyone was just so nice about it. All the fans were super supportive. I know there's a few people who were disappointed, but everybody was like on board. They're rooting us on and everything else that we're doing. Yeah, and I just love like how much love and appreciation I have for that whole experience. It's a chapter in my life that I look back on so fondly, and I know everyone on the show. So it's like all my friends and all the cast, the crew, like everybody. So I just wish everyone the best from the bottom of my heart. I'm rooting them on. Peacock this September, and we'll see Wilson continue that beautiful storyline. So it's gonna be great. So I just wanted to share.
Love that. Oh, what's it feel like to close that chapter?
Well, I've had the time. Like I'm at the point now where even I feel like the audience was kind of on the journey.
Yeah.
Like they were kind of like, oh, this is all happening because it's been 1.5 years since I actually clocked in there.
That's right.
I did the New Year's Eve thing, but that was a Zoom. But actually going to work.
Do you guys remember that? He did a Zoom from the house we were staying in.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that was kind of the last thing there. But yeah, so we'll see. And now we're just going to focus on, you know, everything else that we're doing here. And then we'll obviously keep you posted on any, you know, news that comes our way with it. But yeah, we'll let you know once we watch it. We'll give our commentary again.
So it comes out in September, is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll do a little thing there for you because I know we used to do all those recaps. Remember?
Oh, back in the day. Now, do you they shot that already? right?
They might be finishing it this week.
Okay.
Because I remember I would have been in LA last week if I would have done it.
Oh.
And I think it was a 2-week or 10-day thing. I was taking in all the information. But you know when you're in an uncomfortable situation, sometimes you almost like lose your hearing a little?
It just goes completely silent.
Well, because it's hard to focus on the conversation when you're like focusing on how do you answer this tactfully.
Right.
So,
do you think they filmed that obviously in the studio? Right?
Yes, 100%. They have to for
Well, so this is really last thing on this topic. They have Beyond Salem, but what's the other web series that they shoot?
I don't know what that's called.
Is that on the Peacock app as well?
It's on the Dual app, which...
Oh, that's something different.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel the Dual app... I don't know how well it did. I think the biggest problem is that it wasn't worldwide. It was only U.S.
Really?
And so that really hurt. But it could be worldwide now. They could have shut it down. I haven't kept up on the Dual app portion. But they always had that idea of doing something extra.
Right. But now they have Peacock.
But then with Peacock too, it's it depends on what kind of budget they would have, because Peacock isn't run off of ad revenue. It's run off of subscriptions.
Yeah.
So even with Netflix, there's no commercials, but they have 150 million people paying $10 or $15 a month. So they got a $2 billion budget per month to make this stuff. So if Peacock gets wildly successful, maybe they'll have a little more money.
Yeah. Because
Days of Our Lives, I don't know if they would ever do this, but can you imagine giving the show a budget where they actually shoot at a mansion, where they're actually in a car, where they have a budget to do like the
Didn't
prime
they do
time?
that in the 80s? Maybe 70s?
They went on location, but it was still shot mainly in the studio.
Really?
I'm talking about a 100% prime time, like if you're trapped in the woods, you're in the woods.
Right.
If you're at a mansion, you're at a mansion. If you're in a car, you're in a car. You're at a shop, you're on the streets. But
then it's not a soap, because all the soaps do.
I mean, it's all kind of a soap if you think about it. Like soap opera, I don't know what the meaning of that is, but it's like drama. Like we're watching Outer Banks, like...
But it's a primetime soap opera. This is like actual soaps or daytime soap operas.
They're daytime soap operas, but I mean, the stories would be the same. The only difference is the fact that people forgive the fact that it's not real sets, but then they do that in sitcoms.
But I think they like that. I think that's...
Sitcoms are like that too.
You can appreciate it. It's a different feel and vibe. I don't know.
But it's all the same. Like we're watching Outer Banks, and like there's people like grabbing each other, and they're like,
thing.
"You need a bit," and then like you have the close-ups of them like being super emotional and hurt, and then they're like, "Just quiet down," and they're like, "We have to go." And then like I was telling her yesterday, we were watching Outer Banks, and one of the hardest things to ever act, and you have to really psych yourself. It's the thing you feel most phony about. There's a few things. Number one, when someone knocks at the door and you open it and you have to be surprised. Surprise is extremely difficult to play. Big pet peeve of mine. So I always make sure I'm like, be surprised. An acting coach said, just imagine, convince yourself it's going to be someone else so you're actually surprised. But you can't overdo it. So that's very hard to do. Waking up. So many people butcher that. I always wanted, it was my pet peeve too. I'm like, if I'm going to wake up, I have to make it real. Not the whole like, sorry. No.
Oh, no.
Convince it. And the other thing that is so hard to do is when there's someone shot or there's a knife wound and you're putting pressure on it and you're like, 911, 911, just be quiet, just be quiet. Like that whole thing is so hard not to feel phony while doing it. You really got to convince yourself, like, those are hard. Everything else is kind of easy.
Well, because you've experienced the other things. I would assume most people haven't been in that high, intense situation of...
That's so true.
You know?
I've never experienced that, and I've experienced being surprised, but a surprise is like fear. It's the same reaction where fear kind of comes out of a surprise.
And being surprised, too, it's not like you're surprised every day and you're used to what that feels like. Being in love, you know, getting in fights, you would know, but being surprised is such a specific emotion.
Yeah.
So maybe it's...
Yeah. Why are we saying that? What was
we were talking about Outer Banks.
Well, we were, yeah. This just everything being a soap opera, like it's all the same, like it's all the drama. But I think this is a good start. So we'll pay attention to what's happening here in the next couple years. Yeah. But you know, just with the way that the entire industry is changing, there's Days of Our Lives has to stick around forever. because people are doing anything and everything they can to become a household brand name. Mm-hmm. It is so hard in today's world to create so much brand awareness that Days of Our Lives has.
But that's 55 plus years.
Yes. So that's why it has to go forever. And I think all the people understand that. So whether it's Peacock or whatever, like you can't ever stop trading on that brand.
Right.
Because if you knock on every single door, if you go to any apartment complex, any hotel, and you knock on every door and say, do you know Days of Our Lives? The answer is yes. Yeah. So for NBC or Peacock or anyone to go, you know what? We're going to be done with this. We're going to invest in the Barefoot Chronicles. And people are like, what the hell is that? If you knock on every door, no one knows what the hell that is. And you have to take billions of dollars and years of work to even come close to getting that to be close. So I really hope they continue that because Days of Our Lives is a huge household name. And I'm happy they're investing in that. So that is that.
And that's that. And all the best to Days, to Zach, to everyone, all the cast and crew involved.
Yes.
Sending good vibes.
And people's big question too is, what are we doing now? Well, one little side job that I have is I've become a handyman. Not officially, but just for my in-laws. Which
well, you have a lot of jobs you have to go do today and tomorrow, this whole week. Really, what kind of stuff are you going to be doing?
Just everything. When she said I had a list, it's everything. So, but yeah, they moved into their house 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And they're still like not put together. And they've just had issues with handymen coming in and being late or canceling.
Lots of canceling.
And I told them, I said, look, I'll do it for free. Like, I'll do all your handyman stuff. And your mom was like, no, I have to pay you. And I was like, I don't want your money. So she's like, then I'll hire a handyman. So for 2 weeks, she went with different handymen who did accomplish a lot of the tasks.
Stuff, yeah.
But then they just didn't work out. So now she called 2 nights ago and she's like, I can't find anyone. And I said, all right, I'll do it. And she goes, well, I have to pay you. And I was like, well, as long as you know, I would have done it for free. But I mean, I'll take some cash money. But to be fair,
there is a lot of work. It's not like, oh, hey, come over and move this or help me paint this. Like, there's a list of stuff.
It's probably going to take me 15 to 20 hours of total work, including going to Home Depot and all that stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I never realized until being put in this situation just the skills that I accumulated from my dad over all these years, from like electrical to dimmers to laying floors to hanging pictures to patching holes to putting up cabinets to building. Like, there's pretty much nothing I can't do. And I just never really realized that because I just grew up as like, it's just part of life. Like, like my dad ordered, they're re-siding their house. And so I was like, well, I'll come home and help out. And he has all his buddies coming over. Yeah. So I think in the next few months, I'm going to go back. We're just going to side the house. But I like doing projects with my dad, and that's when he was here. But we put our entire apartment together in one day because we just know how to hang TVs, how to use all the stuff. But I took it for granted.
I take it for granted that you're good at all that stuff.
So, but it's really nice though. There's this weird part of me, not a weird part, just like a cool part, that working with my hands, I can't get that feeling of accomplishment in any other field other than like moving furniture, putting furniture together, building something physically, hanging things. Like, there's something about a list of physical stuff with your hands. And then
you work really well though when there's a task and then you accomplish it and there is a list. You do very, very well with that.
There's a beginning, middle, and end. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of other stuff that we do that's kind of endless.
Yeah.
So you almost can't think of the goal and get that satisfaction.
Right.
It's kind of you have to enjoy the day-to-day process because it's forever. It's kind of like life. I mean, like you have to enjoy life because it's a process. No one's goal is to end it.
Right.
But with these little projects, there's an actual like, here's the job, here's the work, here's the process, and then here's the goal. And it's in sight, and you accomplish it, and you get that dopamine hit. But with something like even podcasting, we feel great when we're like, hey, we're going to film this podcast, we're going to edit and put it up, and you do get a little dopamine from that. But it's like, well, next week there's going to be another one, and then like the members, like it's like we've signed up to do this podcast in perpetuity. I mean, I don't know how long. We might be forever.
Crazy.
So though we feel that little like, oh yeah, like we're getting like every week we do it. But it's not like, hey, we're doing an 8-episode series and then you accomplish it. Or when you film a movie, I bet you people when they film a movie, they're like, here it is, the prepping, the shooting, and then they watch it in the premiere and they get that sense of like, that's done.
Yeah.
Like I did that. So
I will say though, what I love about filming our podcast and it being, you know, a little bit about our lives and what's going on and documenting that, even so far from us starting in Pasadena in 2018 to then getting the studio in Studio City, then taking it on the road and going cross country and then doing our Airbnb here in Orlando, and then now we're finally settled. I mean, imagine in 3, 4, 5 years to always be able to look back and see our journey is really, really cool.
It's been the biggest surprise because we started off with the podcast like you wanted to do it. Yeah. And I remember I just didn't see like the full vision of it. So I was kind of like, I don't really get it.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I didn't understand the power of a podcast. And then I'm glad we stuck with it because it's been the biggest surprise. And like, this is the most like fun. It's so fun to be able to do.
Well, and it's crazy too, because now that I think of it, when we first started the podcast, we started it on Facebook. And we were just going live on Facebook. Yeah,
we had a bunch of iterations, and that's we always do that. We have big ideas, we try it for a little, and then if it sticks, we go all in, and if it doesn't, then you kind of learn and adjust. And so we're always kind of maneuvering and figuring out where to put our time and what to do. But this is great. So I want to thank you all so much for supporting the podcast and tuning in, and we do our best to try to make it as entertaining and inspirational, educational every single week. And you all just mean the world to us. So thanks for allowing us to have a platform here to share our lives with you and talk through ideas and all that fun stuff. So, but I'm going to go hang some curtain rods and hook up some lights and put in some dimmers. You're going to go with me.
I am. Okay, I'll bring my laptop.
Yeah, and then we can bring Beeman Cashman.
Little Benjamin. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, Benji. He has many nicknames in this household. So, but thank you all so much for stopping by, and we will see you next Wednesday. So have the best week ever, and we will talk to you soon.